Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Our Hearts at Home podcast, where we talk about trusting God in the midst of suffering. We're your hosts, Gary and Laura House, co-founders of the Our Hearts at Home ministry to bereaved parents.
Every one of us encounters suffering. Each week on this show, we sit down with people who have a deep understanding of suffering because they've experienced it. We hope you'll leave here with new insights into how you can trust the Lord through the painful times of your life.
So thanks for joining us. We think you're going to be encouraged by what you hear today. Today, we welcome to the podcast our friend Mike Straley, a father, author, and founder of Leah'S Legacy. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Greatly appreciate it.
Mike, we're looking forward to talking with you about what you and your wife are doing now to help other families. But first, could you introduce us to your family a little bit? Just share with our listeners where you live and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Mike Straley. My wife is Robin. We've been happily married for 37 years. We live in a small community in Greencastle, Pennsylvania, right across the Maryland line. We're about 90 minutes west of Washington, D.C. We are about 90 minutes south of Hershey, PA. I mentioned that because people can identify with the delicious candy bars. We're right along the Interstate 81 corridor. It's a farming community. It's a rural community. And Robin and I were blessed to have two children, Christopher and Leah, and they were 9 years apart. And I will talk about Leah and Christopher as we go on.
Yeah. And you have a grandchild, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, our only grandbaby, Jane. She was named after my beautiful mother-in-law, God rest her soul. And Jane is Chris's daughter, and she lives down in Virginia. And we are blessed to have her. She's just full of energy, and really has the characteristics of her daddy.
Wow.
And she's entering the fourth grade this year.
Oh, that's great.
Good.
Yes.
Well, unbelievably, your two children have passed on ahead of you. That's just difficult for anyone to comprehend. It's devastating to lose one child, and to think of losing two is an incredible thing. No parent ever expects to outlive our children. It's just not the normal course of things. It's not the natural order. But you lost Leah in 2018, and then Chris was much more recent, just in 2022. So can you take a few minutes and introduce us to Chris and Leah so we can get to know them a little bit better and share whatever you want to about their stories?
Well, it'd be my honor. Leah Renee passed on Valentine's Day of 2018. She's forever 26. She passed from fentanyl poisoning. And Leah was, a gifted young lady. Ironically enough, when she got out of high school, she received a stipend to go to college. She thought many, many years that she was not college material. And here she got a stipend to go to a local school. And she was entered into the Justice Department in terms of studying, and she didn't know what she wanted to do in that particular area of field of study. But ironically, she said, I think I want to be a drug counselor. Leah's addiction started when she was probably around age 14. And we as parents were very naive. She hid it really well, but Leah tried unbelievably hard to whip the addiction. And I can go into that a little bit later, but just a gifted young lady. And when she was in sober living, and we didn't know this until after the fact, but it didn't surprise us that after the fact, when we heard that she was always trying to help people. And when she was in her various sober living homes, she would take the new residents under her wing and show them the ropes, because there's a lot of anxiety
Sure.
when you're coming in, and there's so many things mentally that you have to get right. And so she tried to make them feel at ease, and would show them maybe the dry erase board to say, hey, this is how we have the chores listed up, or hey, we take turns cooking, and if you don't know how to cook something, I'll help you, because my mom's a great cook, and I always call my mom or Facebook my mom to get recipes and things like that. So, and we learned about that. And the one lady, who now probably has at least, I would say, 9 years of sobriety, and has a husband and two beautiful children in California. She credits Leah for saving her life while they were together at a sober living home in California.
Wow.
And she had a wonderful testimonial, I should say, at Leah's memorial service. And so, we were blessed to have Leah for 26 years, and she was loved, and she knew she was loved. And Chris, what can I say about that young man? Chris left us actually on Leah's birthday, November 10th of 2022. I was actually at work, and I was getting ready to work a half a day. And when my wife called me, and normally she doesn't call me, she'll text me or message me. And when she called, and I got a tightness in my belly again, because she very seldom calls me at work. And she said, I'm on my way to the hospital in Winchester, Virginia. And Chris died in an automobile accident on Interstate 81 that was no fault of his own. And his vehicle was clipped by a tractor and trailer, and his Toyota 4Runner was flipped several times, and he was ejected. We as parents decided that what would Chris want us to do? And he wound up giving extended life to 4 other people as an organ donor. Chris was a gifted welder. I mean, he was a gifted welder, and he was always very creative with his hands, even as a youngster, with Legos and things like that. And ironically, I see the same trait in Jane, his daughter. And so, he growing up, he was an outdoorsman. He loved to do stunts on bicycles, and actually joined a tour briefly with motorcycles, and performed stunts and things like that in some arenas and things like that. And we were always scared to death that he would, break bones and things like that. And but the young man was gifted. And so we have since, he cut his teeth at the local Votech as far as welding. And I knew he had a gift with his hands, and he hated sitting in school in the classroom and doing book work. And I said, Chris, God's given you a skill with your hands, make the most of it. And so he decided to go to Votech. And I mean, he was just a natural. I mean, the very first time that I had a parent teacher conference with the welding teacher, he said, Christopher is a sophomore, and the young man can read blueprints like I've never seen before.
Wow.
And I've got seniors that are getting ready to graduate that can't read that can't read blueprints like Chris can.
Wow.
And so we have since established a scholarship in his memory for graduating male or female from the welding department that's going out into the workforce, because that's what Chris did. As soon as he graduated, he went into the workforce as a welder. And so we've done that now for 2 years.
Oh, that's really
And that's been a blessing to Robin and I. And this past May, Jane got to present the award to this year's winner. And she wanted to do that. She wanted to be part of that. And like I said, little girl's 9, and she wanted to present her daddy's award.
That's great.
And so that's
yeah.
I'm very blessed. Robin and I are very blessed that that we had our children as long as we did.
Yeah.
Chris passed when He was 39 years old.
Wow. Well, Mike, we want to come back and talk in just a moment more about Leah's story and Leah's legacy and the book you wrote.
Yeah.
But could you share just a little bit more with us about your grief journey? We have a lot of people that listen that are recent to the journey of losing a child. And we have quite a number of people that listen to the podcast that have also lost more than one child. Could you share a little bit about your grief at the beginning? And then it's really quite astounding that once you were 4 years out, which of course grief changes in that time, then Christopher went to heaven.
Yeah.
And so could you just share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, it was brutal.
Mm.
One word. I'm at work on Valentine's Day, and 9:02 a.m. I get a phone call to go down to the front lobby of where I work, and there's two Pennsylvania State Police officers there to greet me, and then they take me into a room and give me the news. And I don't know. I mean, it was devastating. And some days you just go through the motions of whatever you're doing. And with me, I took a leave of absence from work. And when I got back, my coworker, who had lost her son at an early age, said, "Look, some days you're not going to want to be here. Some days people will ignore you. They will literally turn around when you're walking down the hallway because they don't know what to say. You don't know what to say to them. Some days you just want to stay in bed. Some days you just want to cry. Other days you want to punch something." And you know what? I've checked that. I've checked all those boxes off many, many times. One thing that I did learn along the way was God was with me every step of the way. And as difficult as that was early on, because I thought, God, why are you doing this? And my wife really, Robin, she really struggled. To the point where she's like, God has left us.
Mm.
Why would he do this to us? And she found her relief in helping another sober living home that was getting their start through a social enterprise with candy making. And she would go over on Saturdays and help them. Literally, it was getting off the ground with this. And I would stay at home. And I got angry. I was very, very angry because there I was looking at four walls, grieving. And I went to grief counseling, and grief counseling was not the answer for her. But I would go to grief counseling, and some days, honestly, I would feel a lot worse coming out of those sessions than I did going in. And I would sit in my car and cry.
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And then on Saturdays, my wife would go over, and that was her way of channeling her grief. And it was very, very difficult until one day she told me, she came back and I was angry. And she said, you really need to join me at one of these candy making sessions with these ladies. And that's when they first had accepted their first ladies in recovery. They didn't know me from Adam. And I said, okay. And I rolled my eyes thinking, yeah, okay, this is going to work. And I'll never forget it. I walked in there that day, and those ladies didn't know me, and they were of all ages, from like 18 to 58, let's say. And they greeted me as Mr. Mike and gave me hugs. And I will never forget that.
Mm.
I will never forget that.
Mm.
And I'm still friends with a lot of those ladies today who have progressed into, dare I say, normal lifestyles. They've got their families back. They're reunited with their children.
Mm.
We were on Facebook together. They have reunions over at that sober living home, and we're always invited. That was an uplifting experience for me.
Mm.
And it took away a lot of my anger And to be honest with you, and I still have trouble with this, it's okay to smile and it's okay to laugh. I say that grief is not the absence of love. Grief is proof that love is still there, because your heart still hurts and your heart still aches for your loved one, for your child. And you just don't wake up one day and say, oh, well, this is gone now, and we move on to the next chapter. It's there. Okay. And one of the biggest adjustments that I had, I'm a big sports fan, is when is it okay to cheer? When is it okay to laugh? Because I feel guilty, and I still do. Am I punishing myself for what has happened? And am I allowed to be happy? Am I allowed to have joy in my heart? And I contemplate that. And that part doesn't go away. But I will tell you this, even though there are many days because of the triggers, it's okay. It's okay to smile. And it's okay to laugh. Because for the longest time I couldn't look at pictures of my daughter. And I'm at the point now where, especially when I wrote the book, the last part of the editing of the book was editing the pictures. And I knew what pictures I wanted in the book, but I couldn't look at them. And so my wife had to do the last edits, because she got the pictures. I told her the pictures that I wanted in the book. And it was a situation where she then had to do the final edits of the pictures to match up with the cut lines, because I couldn't bring myself to look at those pictures. Now I've matriculated to actually seeing and looking at pictures of Leah in her older years, but I'm still not over the hurdle of looking at baby pictures and pictures of her younger years, because that to me is still a trigger, and it's still very, very hurtful.
It's only 4 years. That's really not long.
Yes. And so it's the journey of grief does not go away. But to those that are new to the grief process, take your time. Self-care. I can't emphasize that enough. Someone told me early on, you've got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. And I sort of brushed that off, because I didn't, as simple as this may sound, I really didn't know what that meant. And early on, in the first couple months especially, I wasn't taking care of myself. I had lost a lot of weight. I was angry. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I had a short fuse. And, over time, and when I say time, it's hard for me to put a timeline on it, but like I said, those ladies lifted my spirits in such a way when I was over there. And I just felt as though that I needed to get back with my walk with God. I never left it per se, but it wasn't where I needed to be. And then the book came about. And that while then Robin was doing her thing on Saturday mornings, I was writing. And boy, that really lifted me. And I know not everyone can write a book or start a foundation. I get that. But you know what? Surround yourself with people that care for you and love you. That's my biggest takeaway on that. Because I had so many people, particularly two people, a high school friend of mine who were still dear friends. He would come over from time to time. He would just sit and he would listen. He didn't talk. He just wanted me to share. And I will never forget that. And I've told him that so many times. I said, Glenn, thank you for your presence. And thank you for taking time out of your day just to let me talk. And that was the best therapy that I could have. And I had another person that did the same thing.
Wonderful.
So just surround yourself with people that care about you and the people that love you, because you're going to meet your share of people that say the wrong things, do the wrong things, and you just got to take that, in stride, and know that there are a lot of people out there that do care about you.
Well, that's great advice. Losing a child changes us forever. We're never the
Yes.
same person. We take on a whole new identity. People around us, friends and family, notice that new identity, and they basically have to make a choice whether they like it or not. Uh,
Right.
if
Good
they
point.
want us the way we used to be, then may no longer be friends with them because we're different people. Not only that, but our uh, perspective of life changes drastically. Our view of God, we question God oftentimes and even get angry at God. And as we seek answers to why this happened, and as we question God, why he allowed us to lose a child, we start a process oftentimes that changes our image of God. Sometimes not so good, sometimes very good, but our perspective of heaven and earth changes a lot. And so, could you take a few minutes, Mike, and just share a little bit about how your two losses have changed you in terms of perhaps your image of God, your view of God, your walk with Him, and you just as a person?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, my priorities have changed. I mean, before I was just, you know, with my professional life, and like I had mentioned before, I was an avid sports fan, and would get mad at my favorite teams losing, or why they do this or why do they do that. I could do better than that. That's just natural, as a sports fan to do that. And I know that, is may sound trite, but my priorities have changed big time, especially now that we have founded Leah's Legacy Foundation, which we founded in 2019. Um, my wife and I, we are committed to this foundation, and God has provided, and we've taken our misery and turned it into mission, and our pain, we've tried to turn our pain into passion, and that's what we've tried to do with Leah's Legacy. And God has provided. I mean, our foundation has grown so much, and to Him I give the glory, because there have been so many things and so many, like, for instance, and I'll give you for instance, when we applied for the official paperwork for our 501c3 nonprofit status in 2019. Well, that normally takes, in Pennsylvania, that normally takes 8 to 9 to sometimes 12 months. We had it in 6 months.
Mhm.
And then, with the bags and the purple bags, and we were running out of space in our house to store all these supplies, and we needed a building. And now we have the Leah Legacy Operations Center, and it was going to be $19,000. And my wife wasn't going to sign the contract to build this on our parents' property next door. And I said, Robin, I raise money during the day for the foundation that I work for, and as the executive director, I will raise the money for this building. And COVID hit, and it gave me, instead of 1 or 2 or 3 weeks to raise the money, it gave me 3 months, because they weren't allowed to travel to erect the building because of COVID regulations, and everything had shut down. And guess what? God provided.
Mhm.
He provided the $19,000 plus all the gifts in kind of all the services, like the drywall and the insulation, and the people that would do that.
Mhm.
And you know what? I to this day, I go over and I sit in the building, and I just ponder by myself, and I thank God for the blessings that He bestowed on us through this foundation.
Mhm.
And so many other things have happened through the foundation, that if it weren't for our Lord God, we wouldn't have had it. And I could just go on and on, but the blessings that he's given us through this foundation, and the feedback that we are getting from the ladies who we present a purple bag to filled with essentials. We were at an event last year, and the lady, she was in recovery, and she was expecting her first child, and she came over to us and she gave us a big hug before she said one word, and we recognized her face, and she said, "I still have that purple bag."
Mm.
And I kept that purple bag, and she said that was the impetus for me to not go down the wrong road again, because I remember your daughter Leah, and every time I would see Leah's legacy on that purple bag, that provided the energy for me, and provided the challenge for me to go ahead and continue this life of sobriety. And for that, I give the good Lord all that credit, all the credit in the world for that. And that's just a couple examples.
Can you share just a little bit, just kind of bullet point for our listeners? What exactly do you do? So what does the foundation do?
Yeah.
If somebody comes and they're
Yeah.
having, just let us know.
Sure. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory, if I may, because Leah was in a sober living home in Ephrata, PA, which is above Lancaster, PA, in 2017, and it was at Christmas time, and a group of church folks came in with nicely wrapped presents, except one present was in a garbage bag. And Leah was the type of young lady that would stand back and let everyone else go before her. And of course, all the ladies jumped with the nicely wrapped presents. Well, Leah got the garbage bag. Well, inside the garbage bag, though, she hit the mother load, if you will. There was a nice purse, and inside the purse there were all kinds of essentials, things that we take for granted: chapstick, uh, hairbrush, a wet hairbrush, toothbrush, toothpaste, so on and so forth, gift cards, things like that. She called us that Sunday. It was one big run-on sentence of everything that she had. Okay. So after Leah passed in 2018, her memorial service, we were supposed to have actually dinner with her on March 1 of 2018 in Florida, because she passed in Florida. And instead, we had her memorial service in Hagerstown, Maryland, at our home church. And 4 days later, we were back in our home church, and halfway through the service, this hand comes across my left shoulder, and there was a card. And on the card, it said, "Be a voice." And I turned around, and it was our good friend Linda. And she looked at me with a half smile, and she nodded, and she winked at me like I was supposed to know what that meant on the card, "Be a voice." And I didn't, but I kept that card, and I put it in our walk-in closet. And I prayed on that card every morning, and I would look at it every night. And 2 or 3 months later passed, and Robin and I were still figuring out, going through grief, not knowing which end was up, but we knew we wanted to do something to honor our daughter. We didn't know. And I was on my way home one day from work, and you talk about God working in mysterious ways. So I'm on my way home, and it takes me 30 minutes to get from my workplace to home. And I'm going through historic Mercersburg, PA. And I'm on the other side of Mercersburg, and this voice, wasn't a loud, audible voice, but this voice says, "Recreate the bag." And I talk to myself all the time in the car, and I said out loud as a question, "Recreate the bag." And I heard the voice again, "Recreate the bag." And it hit me like a ton of bricks. The bag that Leah had received a year prior at the sober living home, let's recreate that bag for women in recovery. And so I got home. I was so excited. My wife is a graphic artist. We both have full-time jobs. I said, "Robin, I think we have the answer. We're going to recreate the bag that Leah had received at the sober living home last December, only it's not going to be a garbage bag. It's going to be a purple reusable drawstring bag for women in recovery. And let's fill that bag with essentials." And so we put our collective minds together, made a list of some of the things that she had gotten in the bag, and we added to the bag. And we continue to this day to add to the bag.
Mm.
Okay. And so inside that bag is about 40 items, things that we take for granted. And we go to sober living homes for women. We go to agencies and organizations that serve women in recovery. And we present Leah's journey. And we present our journey as grieving parents, because women and men, for that matter, that are in recovery, they don't hear the parent side.
Yeah.
They don't understand the grief and the heartache.
Yeah.
And so we present that. And believe me, I can tell you this, every place that we've been, there are always tissues,
Yeah.
and there's always lots of hugs.
Mhm.
And so that was really the impetus of Leah's Legacy Foundation. And if you were to walk in our Leah Legacy Operations Center today, you would see that card framed,
Oh, that's neat.
because when I go over there by myself just to meditate, I look at that card. I look at those words. Okay. And underneath that, there's a tote board. And every purple bag that goes out those doors, they're accounted for. If you were to walk in that building today, you would see the number 1211. 1,211 Leah Legacy purple bags have been presented to women in recovery since 2019.
That's really neat. Wow. That's incredible.
Mm.
Now, I know that I'm not sure if it's in the same building, but your wife, Robin, has an incredible cookie business.
Yeah.
And I looked online. I'm going to definitely put the link to that Facebook page. Those are
Yeah.
not just, when you say cookies, you think, oh, cookies. No, these are not cookies. These are like masterpieces.
Well, thank you. And I will pass that on to Robin.
And so
Yes.
that's a piece too. What do you do with that?
Well, it is. And so, we wanted to do, we live beside my parents, and on the other side of my parents' house was my aunt and uncle's house. And my uncle passed away 14 years ago, and my aunt was up in years. And I was talking with my cousin back in 2021 or 2022, I guess it was, about the possibility of, when my aunt passed, that maybe the foundation could purchase that house. Well, this was in April, and my aunt unexpectedly passed in June from a brain tumor. And so we were able to purchase the house through the foundation, and it's now called Leah's Gathering Place. And it's a beautiful little home that I spent many, many days there as a kid with my cousins. And so inside Leah's Gathering Place, we hold life skill workshops, monthly life skill workshops for women in recovery, some educational, some fun. Educational, I'll give you an example, like Banking 101, how to reclaim your credit, how to open up a checking account. And we bring in the experts. We don't teach these classes. We bring in the experts. How to do mock job interviews, things like that. And then the fun things, we did a Pamper Her class where we brought in cosmetologists, masseuse, and people had the ladies. I think we had 16 ladies there in recovery, and they got a shampoo and a haircut. They got facials. They got a chair massage. It was the whole 9 yards.
That's neat.
And every class, whether it's fun or educational, ends with a home cooked meal. The last class that we did in June, we took a little bit of a break in July in this month, and we're going to kickstart the life skill classes again in September. But the last life skill workshop that she did was how to make a succulent class with the little succulent plants.
Yeah.
And there were like 14 or 15 ladies there, and they made their own little succulent bowls and dishes and whatnot. But to your point, as far as Leah's Cookie Bite Bake Shop, that's also the home to my wife's bakery that she does on the side. And like you said, their sugar cookies ice decorated sugar cookies of all themes and motifs and
They're
and
beautiful.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And she takes a lot of personal orders, and she also does things like a week or so before the holiday.
Mhm.
So
You don't ship those, do you? Is it just for
yes,
local?
we do.
Oh,
Yes,
do
we do.
you ship
Yes,
them?
we do.
Okay.
Her cookies have been shipped to California, Minnesota,
Oh,
Florida, Texas,
yeah.
probably missing a few states, but yes, they
Okay.
are shipped.
Okay, well, we'll definitely put the link there. That's one more way
Yes.
to support Leah's
And
legacy. Mhm.
yes, and that's a good point. Because every penny of everything that we raise, and my wife, God bless her, because this is another way of a coping mechanism for her with her
Sure,
grief.
sure.
That's a coping mechanism, and I'm telling you, she spends endless hours decorating those cookies to the point of, she will get up sometimes at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, go over, bake some cookies,
Mhm.
start flooding them, which is like the base icing, and then she'll go to work by 8 o'clock, and then she'll come back and at 5:30 in the afternoon, in the evening, she'll pull into the Leah's Gathering place driveway and work until 10 or 11 o'clock.
Wow, it's
She
incredible.
doesn't do that every night, but she spends
Sure.
a lot of hours
Yeah,
with those cookies, and she is so gifted and so talented, and I'm
yeah,
very, very proud of her. I'm
Yeah.
very, very proud of her.
yeah.
Yes.
They're amazing. And for somebody who is an artist, she's a cookie artist, really.
Yeah,
But
there you go.
to be able to be there quiet,
Yes.
and thinking
Yes.
about Leah and spending time with the Lord
That's
and
it.
creating these amazing pieces of art. Yeah,
That's it.
I can see
Yes.
how that would be. I don't have that gift, however. I
Well, I
wish
don't
I
either.
did, but
I don't either.
I've seen places, like a specialty cookie place. I've
Yeah.
seen some of these before, but I've never actually known
Yeah.
a person who was skilled like that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you shipped them. So
Yes.
we'll definitely put that link there for people
Yes.
to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, it's just fascinating to hear everything that you and your wife do and how God has called you, motivated you,
And
given
giving you
you,
strength.
yeah,
Yeah.
strength and creative ideas, to minister to others through your grief and meet the needs of others who are struggling in life, particularly in the area of drug addiction. So thank you so much for everything you both do and the impact that I'm sure that you're making on so many people. I'm sure that scripture has been an important part of your journey, scriptures that have given you hope and encouragement and strength. Is there a particular scripture or multiple scriptures that have helped you in your walk and to bring comfort to your broken heart? And as we close out today, maybe share one or two of those with us.
Absolutely. When I have the opportunity and the privilege of signing a book, which the book is called The Calling, I include this. I don't sign my name to the book. And this was Robin's idea. She said, "Why don't you sign it as Leah's dad?" And
Mm,
that's how I sign it,
mm,
Leah's dad. And underneath that, I put Jeremiah 17:7-8.
mm,
But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit.
mm.
Beautiful.
That's a really good way to end our podcast today. Thank you so much for being here, Mike. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate your
Thank
time
you.
sharing your story.
Thank you.
The Our Hearts Are Home ministry to bereaved parents is solely funded by generous supporters like you.
To partner with us to reach grieving parents with the hope found in Christ, visit ourheartsarehome.org.